For those with good taste.
Welcome back, Tasties and Taste Stats, to another episode of FTWGT Weekly. It's your boy, Lenny, joined again by Lil D, and that D stands for Diddy. Dante, how are you?
No. You're not going to call me Lil D either. Like, that's just crazy.
What would you prefer? If I had to choose one, Lil D or Lil Diddy?
Neither.
No, you have to choose one.
Then Lil D, because Diddy's just bad.
I'll tell you what. If you want to hear me call him Lil Diddy from now on, hit that thumbs up button down below. No. If you'd like me to call him Lil D, go ahead and tap that subscribe button. And while you're at it, why don't you hit the notification bell for alerts whenever we post a new pod. Thank you so much. My infomercial.
I hate that so ingenuous. Thank you so much.
Can we talk about movie theater etiquette, Dante?
Okay.
I'd like to, speak about some grievances I have with people's etiquette. Movie theater etiquette is it's like baseball's unwritten rules. It's like there's just like things as an audience goer that you should know not to do. And I'd like us to air some of those out here if we could.
They even tell you some of the rules before the movie.
Yeah, I'm not even talking. Dude, you can whisper to your friend next to you within reason. You can be on your cell phone. Just don't do it when you're sitting right next to somebody. Like to where don't do it to where the brightness is up all the way or shit like that. But turn the brightness down all the way. I don't really give a shit. Yeah. Not that distracting to me. That's cool. Those ones, they get them out of the way pretty early on. Okay. Here's one. If you're in a movie theater, that's you and two other people. We live in a world where you pick the seats before you go to the movie. Right? Yeah. We've lived in this world for a long ass time.
Yeah.
It's very easy to avoid in a theater that's not close to sold out to avoid sitting directly next to people. An unwritten rule is there should always be a buffer seat.
Yeah.
A Bruce buffer seat. There should always be one, or a Michael. Whichever one you prefer, there should be a buffer seat.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Sorry to rumble.
You didn't give me the energy on it, so I didn't pick up on the rest of the line. Yeah.
So I go to the movies. I get there. I know when I bought my ticket, there was a person sitting in the row. And so it's a theater where there's 3 rows of full seats. There's a partial row in the very back. And then there's our handicap seats and the seats in the very front rows. It was a smaller theater. So
was this for your Heretic showing?
No.
Okay.
Elevation.
Gotcha.
So when I buy the ticket, I'm I don't really feel like sitting in handicap. There's not a lot of people in the theater. I want to sit in the first row, up or whatever, up the stairs.
Yeah.
When I buy the ticket, there's 2 seats purchased in that row already, and it's a couple further down. So I put 5 seats in between us.
Yeah.
I thought that was a reasonable thing to do.
More than reasonable.
Maybe it was 4 seats, but you know what I mean? Either way, it was either 4 or 5 seats, something like that in between us. Healthy amount of seats. There's still empty seats, 3 empty seats to my right. So I'm slightly off center, not very far, but I was this kind of works, I'm good. I get there. There's just the 2 people that were in the rows behind me that I already knew bought tickets when I got there. I was okay, cool. The movie's about 5-10 minutes away from starting. And this couple walks in. For the sake of it, I'll call them Kai and Kai.
Okay.
They walk in the room. And they look around. So I'm already the fuck are we doing here? What are you up to? And I was is this that couple that bought the seats a couple down from you? That's fine. That's cool. They walk in, and first the girl walks by me. And she sits down 2 seats down from me. And I was all right, well, that's fucking weird. Nobody had bought that ticket to my knowledge at this point. I was well, that's really weird. But there's still a seat in between us. That's fine. Then her boyfriend sits down, and it's me, empty seat, her. And he just sits down in between us. And again, I'm in a theater with 4 people. It's a fucking empty movie theater. And I'm like, you sat down directly next to me, like on top of me. And you've been around me enough to know when I get uncomfortable, like I'm like looking around, like smiling to myself, like, what, like, yeah, we'll just sit here. That's cool.
You
like,
know what's the funniest part about this, though, is what you did next. So instead of just get up and move, right? Like, that's what I feel anybody else in this situation would have done. No, you're so uncomfortable. Your thought was, hey, Dante, I'm going to text you about this situation, but I'm still just going to sit here because I'm going to, bask in the awkwardness.
Well, like, because it's still awkward for me, even if I just go and move somewhere else. Now it's just them looking at me from afar being like, well, that dude really didn't want to sit next to us. No shit, I didn't want to sit next to you. We had an empty theater. I went by myself. Now it looks like I'm third wheeling on a fucking date.
No, I've definitely done the get up and move because it's weird how often that happens.
It shouldn't. That should just be, like, again, unwritten, unspoken. Yeah. You shouldn't have to tell people, even if you bought those seats and you see that the theater's that empty, bro, sit away from me. Get away from me.
Because, like, the one I can remember most recently was, like, a couple weeks ago. I think I might have went to South Bay for this one. And so, you know how in their smaller theaters, the handicap rows are just 4 seats? It's the 2 separated 2-seaters.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in one of those 2-seaters. Nobody, definitely nobody bought the ticket next to me. Comes in, sits next to me.
And you're like, there's empty 2-seater right over there.
Dude, I think it was just me and that person in that theater.
That's crazy.
Like, this might have been a couple months ago when I went to see Rob Peace, I think. But it was just me and that person in that theater. They come in and sit directly next to me. And now here I am. I'm sitting there like I'm already like eating my food and shit. And I was like, well, it's kind of awkward to get up and move for me right now. So no, I finished my food, put it down, and then got up and moved to the other 2-seaters.
See, yeah, like, I don't know. I don't have that in me to do that. So I'll just silently stew and be mad.
Well, the other thing too is, like, usually I'm one to recline, but I think also because I was eating, I was still sitting up. So now not only are you sitting next to me, but you're all like maxed out, relaxing.
That's crazy. Also, like,
what the fuck?
Because like,
I was like, you're really, really comfortable, way too close in my proximity.
They also like had moments during the movie where like it wasn't distracting necessarily, but they were definitely like whispering to each other at different points. And I'm like, again, like, you chose to sit right next to somebody. You can't do stuff like this. But I also like, I don't know. I like to like hit my vape when I'm watching a movie, stuff like that. And now you're sitting directly on top of me. And then, okay, I haven't even gotten to my next unwritten rule because it's not just a one trick pony here I have for you people. I had another one. So the movie is about 5 minutes into starting when the other couple walks in that had bought the seats I knew had been bought. So now, like, my row's filling out because when I told you, I was like, it's crazy. I was going to do it. I was going to try and hit a selfie with them sitting next to me so that you could see how many empty seats.
I really wish you did.
Like, so you could just get an idea, like, how annoying this was for me that there was 12 empty seats to their left that they could have sat in instead of sitting next to me. So those people fill the seats. So I'm like, all right, now it's like they have a buffer seat on the girl's side, but I'm the one who got fucked in like the buffer seat. Ordeal. Couple minutes after that, I hear the door open to the theater, and I hear 2 voices like already talking, like they're chattering with each other, and the movie started, so like I can just hear it. Annoying. It's these 2 older guys. They walk in, and I hear them say like, "Oh, the movie already started." It's crazy. And they do the weirdest thing because they were with each other. They sat in 2 separate rows. So one sat in my row at the very end on my right. So now I have the couple on my left, and then I have my seat, a buffer 2 seats, and then him in the very last seat. His buddy sits in the next row right behind him in that same exit row.
Weird.
Yeah, that one I can't piece together why they preferred to sit like that.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of odd. Whatever though.
Okay.
Guy speaks out loud to himself a couple times early on in the movie. Says like, "That's a bad bitch." I was like, "Oh, cool, dude."
Wow. Okay.
It's like, nice, dude.
Okay.
Which unwritten rule, but that can be kind of funny. So I'm cool.
Yeah.
If you want to get that into the movie, don't do it like the whole time. But if you throw a couple one-liners in, like, that's fine with me. Whatever.
Yeah.
The thing that bothered me though is he pulls out like 30 minutes into the movie, he just pulls out an apple. Like a whole fucking apple, like not a sliced apple. Like he brought out a whole apple, and I just hear to my right
the
crunch and peel of an apple, and for the next 10 minutes he proceeds to eat a full fucking apple next to me.
Did he at least wait for the louder scenes of the movie?
No, dude. Like, and it wasn't a quiet movie. It was annoying. It was just like, I went back to my silently stewing, because then I just like every bite I would just look off and like I'd have like the thumb. I'd be like, this is my life. Like this is the theater I get stuck in, is with the fucking people who sat way too close to me on the left, and the guy who's eating a full fucking apple on my right hand side. Insane. Unbeknownst to me, third unwritten rule: clean up after yourself, douchebags. Right? Like, yes, these people get paid to clean theaters and shit like that. But they don't get paid a ton. They don't, and like, and just be a fucking decent human being.
Yeah.
I looked next to his chair, and what I imagined to be like it looked like the floor of a Five Guys or a Texas Roadhouse.
Jesus Christ.
It was just like a pile of like shells or something all over the floor to the right of his seat. Just all on the ground. Not in a container. Like, just on the fucking ground. You're an asshole, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
You are quite literally an asshole. And if you weren't my elder, I would say it to you.
I might still say it.
So yeah, it was an annoying. It didn't take me out of it. I did my job.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I grinded the movie out. It was annoying though.
Yeah,
frustrating.
If I could give a couple quick bits on my movie theater experience,
you have any unwritten rules to throw in?
Not unwritten rules, but just weird. So, all right, this is weird, right? So I went to the Framingham Theater. Have you ever seen them like set up a booth there? Like,
what do you mean?
A third party like vendor or something has a booth set up at the movie theater?
No. Wait, they're trying to sell movies?
No. So I forget what the name of the company was. It was like Johnson.
Sunbright?
No, it was like Johnson something, right?
Johnson & Johnson?
It wasn't
vaccine?
Johnson. It wasn't Johnson & Johnson though. It was. I just remember it was Investments and Retirement.
Nice.
And they had a booth with like a few.
You weren't
consultants
even catching
there.
a matinee. Like that's what's crazy.
No, I got there at 7:00.
Yeah, like the old people have already gone, dude.
And the worst part is when I got out of my 7:00 movie, they were still there at what 8:45, 9:00, whatever.
Collect the paycheck.
But they had like a massive like booth set up. There was like 3 or 4 of them consultants, and then they just had a bunch of like regular size popcorns off on one side. And I assume if they got people to like consult with them, they would then give them a free popcorn. I was already running late for my movie. I didn't stick around to find out what exactly was going on, but I just thought that was really weird.
You can solicit anywhere nowadays.
Sure, it's just...
Imagine if it was like the National Guard. It's just like, why are you wasting time going to movies, kids?
Enlist.
Yeah. You can make better use of your time.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a very like National Guard, Air Force kind of move, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that struck me as weird. Another thing, I finally tried the bacon mac and cheese.
Yeah.
At Framingham, or bacon chicken mac and cheese.
You don't sound like you liked it.
It was good. It wasn't like great, but it was.
I imagine
good,
it's just Panera, basically, right?
Kind of gave that vibe, yeah.
Like they make it in like the sous vide thing while it's still in the plastic bag, and then they pour it out into a bowl.
What I really want to say though is not a good meal to have in a dark movie theater.
Couldn't see where you were like stabbing the fork.
Exactly. So I'm like trying to scoop, and usually when you're eating something like that, you want even portions of each scoop with macaroni and chicken and bacon, right? Mm-hmm. Because I can't see what I'm scooping, I would go and pick it up, and it'd just be like, oh nope, that's just all chicken. Cool, I'm killing my portions here.
So did you drop it back in the bowl and go for a second swipe?
Oh yeah, no, it was complicated. Especially because it felt like as I got it, it was all the darker scenes of the movie.
You were just playing fucking the crane game at arcade, like the arcade.
It got to a point where I was just stabbing and seeing what came
like
up with
hoping
it.
for the best. Yeah. So they got it to you after the movie started?
Yeah.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
I like it when they get there like right as the movie's beginning.
It was more so my fault because I got there
a little late.
Yeah. So like I think I got there like, say it was 7:00 showing, I got there at like 7:15.
Mm-hmm.
So like I literally got in just as it was like finishing up the previews.
No way that
exactly.
make it faster.
So like not their fault, my fault completely, but like
Because the best thing about the dine-in is literally that makes me get there like to see the previews.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to line up to where like right before Honora, like they just showed up as the movie's starting with a full pizza, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
You know, like this is perfect. Like the last, like the little part where it's like, you know, we at the movies like want to bring whatever experience, and they're showing like the Wicked trailer, like the Wicked thing they do now, the Dolby Vision.
Yeah.
And it's like you could open the box a little, let it get a little air in there to cool off just a tad more, so the cheese is like gonna stay in place.
Yeah.
Like, this is a perfect time for this, you know?
Yeah.
Also, like, it's way more expensive, but I feel like I'm not throwing my money away because I actually finished those things as opposed to like ordering popcorn.
It's more expensive than popcorn, but in the grand scheme of things, like if you went to a restaurant, it's pretty much on par with like that pricing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's still stuff I want to try. Like I haven't had the burger yet.
I think the burger so far is my best experience for food there.
Yeah.
I get the chicken tenders a lot just because they're easy.
They're expensive though.
Kinda.
Are they real chicken tenders?
Yeah.
Or are they like frozen?
They definitely have gone through a fry later. They're not like microwaved.
Are they different than the ones you get at like regular AMC?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. These are like chicken tenders you would probably get at like your typical like American bar and grill type thing. You know.
Got it. Okay. That's
so
fine.
Like not anything special, but not bad either.
And you get fries with those?
Yeah. It comes with fries. Yeah.
That's cool. I want to try the loaded fries kind of, but I want to know if they put like real cheese on them or if they put like just like the nacho cheese spread, because that doesn't sound good.
It's probably nacho cheese.
You want to talk about Elevated though after the 15-minute movie theater?
I don't know what Elevated is, but we can talk about Elevation.
Yeah, same shit. Okay, so short synopsis of the movie Elevation. Anthony Mackie is a dad who has a son that has the lung capacity that you have, but is existing at high altitude.
Which I imagine I would be in the same boat.
Yeah, and he runs out of air, so his dad needs to go and find him more air. So
don't oversimplify it. Come on, his oxygen tanks.
His dad, the reason they're at elevation is there's monsters that can't go over 8,000 is it square feet?
No, it's just 8,000 feet. 8,000 feet of elevation.
They're not squared?
No, they're not like trapped into an 8,000 square foot area. No, it's the whole world just under 8,000 feet.
Yeah. So they just all like humanity for 3 years now has just lived on mountaintops, basically.
Yeah.
Over 8,000 square feet. And he's like, I'm a dad. I need to go get air for my son.
Yeah.
So he says, I'm going to go down below 8,000 feet.
Yeah.
To get air for my son.
Yeah.
Against these monsters that have never been killed.
Yeah.
Got the gist?
That's pretty much it.
Got the gist out there, people?
All right. Moving on.
Okay. A plus to this movie.
Anthony Mackie.
Great. Yeah. Plus number 1, Anthony Mackie. Really good.
Yeah.
Plus number 2, very simple plot line to follow.
Annoyingly too simple.
I think this is very much in like the perfect kind of movie in a way for me, to where like it's an hour and a half. It's 15 minutes to set up the plot that I just gave you in 2. And now we're just going.
So I watched this movie, and I think one of my first thoughts walking out of there was, if Anthony Mackie wasn't in this, would this have been straight to streaming? Yeah,
I think he was great, and even with him, it could have gone to streaming. Like,
yeah.
But he definitely was the strongest part of this movie, and what makes it as good as it is. And I like his ability. Like, you've seen him play funny roles, but then he also is very believable in more of this sincere role, because he wasn't really making jokes in this, but like,
no,
I think he's very believable in both roles. So I like him a lot in this type of a movie. So I thought he was really strong. I thought this was just a simple, straightforward. It's not, at the end of the year, it's going to fall closer to the middle of my list than it is to the end.
For me, it's like bottom middle.
Really? Okay. I definitely have it higher than you.
I think it'll need to move down for me, honestly. Really? I think I gave it a little too much because of how much I like Anthony Mackie.
See,
but I just think this movie was bare. I feel like there was some lazy writing in it. I feel like there was a lot that was just too convenient.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't...
Mostly everything surrounding the monsters, the Reapers.
Yeah. I didn't punish it for being simple. I think I gave it points for it because I've talked about this a couple times recently with movies to where I teeter this line on like some movies I say like, could this movie been better if it was 20 minutes longer? And I try to decide what I think because this movie's only an hour and a half. So like it just gets right into it. And because of that, I give it a lot of leeway because I just don't think it has to do a ton to impress me because it's not offensive. It's not keeping me there forever, like, and it keeps me interested enough and wanting to like, I thought the action sequences were all good enough to where I was satisfied with them. But so the thing about it being 20 minutes longer, I say to myself, well, would that have given them more story to build upon? Could I have gotten some answers to some questions? Would it given me more character depth to certain characters? Or would it turn it into a worse movie if they can't fill that 20 minutes?
I think that argument goes back to the whole if it was straight to streaming thing, right? Because like you got to think about the fact that like thankfully I watched 2 movies when I went to go see this, but like if I had left my house just to watch that movie, I think I'd be even more disappointed. If it's something where it was straight to streaming and it didn't take that commute time into effect, then like, yeah, sure, I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, like I'm factoring that into the time it takes for me. And I just think,
see, like that's so weird to me though, because dude, we're at 90 movies on the year.
Yeah.
Right. If you give me an hour and a half one every now and again, like that might be an automatic pass. Like that might be a minimum 2.5 stars for a lot of movies now at this point for me, just to be able to be like, I got another one in and it was only an hour and a half. It wasn't like, dude, we sat through Megalopolis. Like we gave 3 hours to Megalopolis one. You know what I mean? Like,
unfortunately, we did.
Like,
yes.
This is what I'm saying to where I'm like, dude, an hour and a half on just like a popcorn movie, like just a straight action movie, like nothing too crazy, nothing super thought provoking, with a couple of decent performances. One mainly being Anthony Mackie, and then forgive me, I can't remember her name.
All right, but like, hold on, no, let's run it back then, because like, didn't you just like last week or 2 weeks ago say the worst thing a movie can be is just mid? Just regular,
I
just
have
there?
this over mid.
Okay.
So that's, I told you I have this higher up than you do.
Okay.
I have this higher than mid.
Okay.
The one negative in a way that I would give it on my perspective is it feels a lot like somebody saw A Quiet Place.
I actually wrote that in my notes.
And yeah, it felt a lot like somebody saw A Quiet Place and was like, how can we
actually
do
my
something?
Notes word for word say Temu version of A Quiet Place.
Yeah, like how can we do something in the realm of A Quiet Place? And that's where it brought up the 20-minute question to me. Because the most impressive thing about A Quiet Place isn't the action aspects of it. It's the ability to build your care for the characters without saying a word, basically, for the better part of a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Like, they were able to do so much with, like, and I think...
You know what? Now that you bring up that analogy, right, and, like, you frame it that way, because another one of my notes was, like, there was no answer to who sent the monsters or why.
Yeah.
But Quiet Place doesn't do that either, and those are great movies.
Well, so let's keep going there. And for the sake of it, sounds like you're a do not recommend for the theater. You'd say wait for it to be on like Netflix or
on streaming. Like check it out.
Yeah,
don't go to the theater.
Listen,
for it.
Like if you're looking for a mindless action movie, I'm gonna say go check it out. Like if you're like Anthony Mackie and you like this kind of like monster action movie, like similar or akin to A Quiet Place, check it out. I'm not saying you're gonna love it, but I think it's passable. I give it a recommend, but if you wanted to wait for it for streaming, I don't think that that's a problem either. There isn't a movie theater experience that you're getting out of this necessarily that you couldn't get by watching it at home. So check it out. 3, 2, 1. Spoiler. Okay, so I did want to talk about this. The thing that the benefit you get with A Quiet Place though is because that first movie is so successful. Unbeknownst to them, they didn't anticipate it making as much money. They're able to make a second, and they're able to make a prequel. So even though you're not getting an answer where they're coming from, you got to see how it started, and you got to see all this more context to build this world. That I think there is a world where I'd be interested if this movie was super successful. I think they could sell me on a Elevation day one. You know, like because we didn't get that movie. Really, just like starts with you on the mountain.
You're just in the shit, yeah.
You know? So I think that there is a world where there is more stuff that I'd be interested in exploring that you didn't get out of the hour and a half. I agree that you couldn't have gotten the answer. Like, I think that would have felt forced if they just suddenly had.
They can't jam that into 20 minutes.
Yeah. So I'm fine with the idea, and maybe it was presumptuous in that they thought this movie could be successful enough to some point get them a sequel. I don't know. I don't imagine it's going to make that much. I didn't check box office for the day one like previews.
I didn't either.
But the way it ends with them figuring out how to stop these things or fight back, not stop them. I think that there is stuff that they could have built upon between giving you a prequel and giving you a sequel to where like Earth is more on the offensive. Because I do think that's interesting. They set up 95% of the world's population was just gone within like a 48-hour period, right?
Yeah.
And there's only 5% of the world left. So I still think that even though this community in Colorado has figured out how to defeat it, it's kind of similar to A Quiet Place, where it's like they didn't know how to beat those things. And even though somebody figured out, this little girl figures out how to beat it, it doesn't mean that everybody else.
Little girl, she's a grown woman, but yeah.
Shit, when she figures it out, she's a teenager. What are you talking about? I'm talking about in A Quiet Place.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the girl in A Quiet Place, even though she has figured out sound is the way to fight back against these things, like high pitched frequencies.
Yeah.
It didn't mean that the world got that same information. And we were even talking about after Quiet Place Day 1, that is the next direction that you take this is like her getting back, like all these groups kind of coming together, and it is more of an offensive, like the people against the aliens, you know, and that's the next step to where this goes. And I think that that's where like a sequel to this could have gone is like, well, there's still only 5% of the population. We still don't know where these things came from. Because are they an alien being? Because, okay, so now that we're in spoilers, we can explain it. I thought there was some interesting stuff in here, actually.
Can I just interject really quick?
Yeah.
While I think I fall lower on this as a movie, I think this is something that would have been perfect for a series.
Yeah, if you were going to keep coming back with another season. If you had like a solid 3 seasons of like a limited run or something, I think you could have done some cool stuff. Yeah, because I thought they introduced some interesting things early on with the scientist talking about like, and it kind of reminded me of like a dialogue from Deep Blue Sea in a way, where it's like it's the new apex predator, but this apex predator, they talk about how it isn't like generally predators hunt for food, like they hunt to eat.
Yeah,
reasonable. These don't. They don't sleep either. The one day they just suddenly appeared out of the ground. And what is their motivation? Because they don't eat the horses, they don't eat any of the other livestock or anything that's out there. So, what is their purpose? And I thought that was an interesting concept to introduce. Is like as far as the mystery is to like, what are they here for? And you still haven't gotten that answer, unfortunately. But I liked like that thought process around that, and like then when you get the reveal as to why, it makes sense. Like, why did it give off an electromagnetic pulse that she could, or you know, like why was she able to track it or know when they were around because of the magnetic field that they give off? Like all of those things were answered in that. Yeah, it's not a real thing. It's not a living organism. It was created by something. Now I'd like to know what it was created by, and I like that it left me with those questions. I don't like that you're not going to probably get the answers to those questions.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they do make a part 2, or maybe they continue this into a series or find some continuation of it, but it just doesn't seem likely. And that's where I'm like, I don't know how much I can really say I like this based on just opening all that up and not going anywhere with it.
So I thought a plus in why I like this was I thought every time they went below 8,000 feet, I think they did a real good job of like, you felt the tension of like every time they stepped over that line, that like there was a chance that somebody was going to die, you know? Like,
yeah. But I mean, there's also the whole thing of like where I said it just felt too convenient, right? It's like the whole time they're only getting attacked by one of these things at a time. The second she learns how to kill them, all of a sudden there's 3. Or, you know, she's been trying all these years trying to figure out how to kill them. And the second she figures it out is the second she has to try it. Like, all that stuff.
She didn't have the tools. And they talk about how, like, the CO2, they can see it from miles away.
Yeah.
I do agree with what you're saying about the fact that like
it was just all too convenient.
But I do think that going back to A Quiet Place, because I think it's the easiest reference point for this movie. Even they did this. Like the first one is not the scale of the third one in terms of how many they are, because when you get into these less populated areas and there's less people, and because people at this point, it's 3 years in, have not been coming down below that 8,000 mark. It makes sense that they'd be more spread out, and it wouldn't be that if there's nobody to attack in that area, why would
there be a bunch of them?
If it's the world's population that they're going after, why would they just stay a bunch of them in this one place? So I think that that's where it makes a little more sense that they were only coming across like one or two here and there.
Yeah.
It is for that reason. Now, I do think that it, like when they were in the city, I wish that there was a little bit more of an amplification.
In the city, it was still just only that one.
The one in the hospital, and then another one.
That was the other thing that pissed me off, right? Is like the first one they encounter, she's shooting it with a grenade launcher back to back, unfazed. So like explosions don't seem to do anything to this.
I think that the idea was implied is that this explosion was a larger, more direct. Because like she was hitting, unless she was hitting direct shots with that grenade launcher.
It looked like she was.
She was hitting off to the side of it, like, or in front of it. I don't think she was hitting it direct. And I wouldn't have liked if she was hitting it direct either. I guess in my imagination, I don't want her to hit it direct either, because she is in the military, you know? Like how is she launching from 100 yards out or more a grenade spot on onto a moving target, you know? Versus him setting a trap and timing it up perfectly for that explosion to take him out. Now, I question,
he was very close.
I was going to say, would that explosion have taken him out as well, with the way it blew it through a wall, the way it did? But I thought the whole hospital sequence was one of the best. It
felt really
movie.
Good. Yeah.
Like I thought it's like claws or like tentacles coming through the wall and attacking them and stuff like that was all really good. So I liked all of that. So I do think it's interesting that bullets can't penetrate it, but she was able to get it to let him go with an axe, because there's no reason that axe should have been able to cut through. And how does it feel pain if it's a robot? Yeah. To where, why would it have let go of him with the axe?
Yeah.
We didn't know that at that point, so they could play with that idea. But I think now that you know that, you can't really do that.
That's why that's where I just feel like this was maybe a little lazy in the whole like concept.
But I think that's where I go back to, like, I'm taking it for what it is. Like, it's an hour and a half action movie. Yeah. Again, I've said this a billion times on this podcast. Like, the shit I grew up on was like 90-minute action movies, you know, to where it isn't
just action, it's sci-fi, and like I like my sci-fi to have well-developed plots.
Yeah,
you know,
fair. No, that's fair. I didn't like the way that they die. I thought it was a little too like comic booky, like
the whole implosion.
Yeah, they fall to the ground instantly and then they
evaporate pretty much.
But it's like a Looney Tunes,
they like implode. It's like mushroom clouds.
Yeah, like it's just a funny way to watch. I did, however, like the very end of the movie where it's like the overhead shot of like multiple of them dying.
Yeah,
like I thought that looked kind of cool, but seeing it up close, I was like, I don't like this. Seems a little funny.
Did you watch the mid-credit scene?
No, I didn't know there was one.
I only thought to like wait for it because there was only two other people in my theater and they both were like standing like halfway in the doorway like watching, and I was like, oh, maybe there's something else.
Yeah.
But basically it's just they're looking, it's like a very short cut, but they're just looking up to the sky and you see like three very bright like trails coming down, and it's just, I assume, is more of those machines.
So it's implied that they are alien.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that was like one of those questions to where I thought there was a world, because the way she was staring at the batteries and stuff like that in her office, I was like, were these man-made by somebody?
That's what I was thinking the whole time, but then that post-credit makes it seem like
they're alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, which the technology, I suppose, would make
more sense.
Yeah. Even the idea that like they've like alien studied us something to know that like the way to track us is our breathing, not like it's not necessarily to see us, or it's not heat, it's like, or sound.
Everybody
it's
breathes.
Like,
so
let me search for that.
Yeah.
The girl's death.
I would love to know the answer why 8,000 feet though.
Yeah, which we never got. Especially when they can come from the sky.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were just dying. They're dying in space.
That's their hard programming. I don't know.
Yeah. That is a funny plot device, the 8000, like where in that perspective. That post credit actually puts a whole, because the whole idea is they came up from the ground in the movie.
Yeah.
They talk about them coming up through the ground. So I thought that there was something originally when I was like,
I thought it
when
was
they
like
weren't
maybe like
a
an
robot,
underground bunker or something.
like I thought when it wasn't, before I knew it was a robot, I was like, it's something that's been laying dormant inside the earth this whole time.
Like an other alien race or something.
Yeah, it could have been anything like that, to where like we like they bring us into the mines. They introduce the premise that like, in another thing they talk about is like when they see all the horses in the woods and they talk about like why are there so many here? Well, we haven't been here for 3 years, so we haven't interrupted the way that they live. So now they're taking back the earth, which I thought that's why it could be man-made, is like this idea of reclaiming
destroy,
the
rebuild.
earth. Yeah, like for the earth. And then the idea of like we drill down and we frack and all of this stuff. Like we're constantly taking the earth's resources by mining and drilling and all of these things, to where the idea that we hit on something that was buried deep in the earth, and that's where those things came from, almost seems like a more plausible explanation than where it seems like they might want to go with it. So I gave it 3 stars nonetheless.
2.5 for me.
So I have it at 20. Oh, I might need to rework this, because I have it at 26.
That sounds really high for this.
Yeah, I mean, retrospectively, there's definitely some stuff I'd wish that was ahead of it. But at the same time, like Godzilla v Kong, like I think it's better. I like it better than I liked that movie.
Okay.
But then I look and like Speak No Evil should probably be in front of it. What happened was I saw Beekeeper, and I was like, this feels very much on the same level as Beekeeper to me.
I'd still hold Beekeeper way higher than this. But I have this at 2.5 stars at 57.
Okay, well, let us know what you guys think out there. Do you think it's a 2-star movie or a 3-star movie? Give us a shout down in the comments down below.
2.5, all right.
Got it.
It got the half-star because of Anthony Mackie.
Let's get into news.
Yeah. What you got for me?
Did you know that Robert Pattinson and Zendaya are currently filming a movie in Boston?
Had no clue.
Yeah, there's a bunch of footage coming out of them filming scenes in the city last night.
Like in downtown?
I'm not sure. It was the Boston Gardens area, they said, or something.
I assume TD Garden?
It said Boston Gardens, and I was like,
oh, maybe it's the public garden by the Commons.
Yeah, that could have been what it was. Yeah, there's just a scene of like them walking across the street in a car, like taxi. They're in a crosswalk, and a taxi has to like slam on its brakes, and like Zendaya's yelling at the car and like throws a drink at the car, and like that was the scene they were filming.
Damn, it's crazy that wifey's in town. She ain't hit me up.
Yeah, you're supposed to check in when you're in my city.
Yeah, right.
Maybe you should go figure out where they're filming and go like hang out, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah. Bring a sign or something. So yeah, that's kind of cool. It's always sick when like you have large like very big actors just filming in the streets of the city. I like that.
Yeah.
Remember a couple weeks ago we talked about Tom Holland is going to be doing a Christopher Nolan movie?
Yes. Did we figure out what?
No, but we did get a couple more people cast in the movie.
Oh, okay.
One being Zendaya.
Okay.
So he's doing another movie with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Are you jealous?
Yeah. Titles. Whatever.
Yeah. Formalities. Not a big deal. Yeah, so it's Zendaya and Anne Hathaway both got cast in this. Anne Hathaway did Interstellar, which is another Nolan movie, right?
Yeah.
So cool. I got Zendaya's fantastic. So pairing her up in Nolan too, like this cast has Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, and Zendaya.
Sounds like a must watch already.
Yeah, it's like that's a fantastic cast. And that's kind of goes to show you with having major directors, like you can just like people want to work with those people, so they end up getting
can kind of just
fantastic.
Pull whoever you want. Yeah,
yeah, like whoever they have on their little vision board for when they created the movie, like to be like I could see this person being in this film. That's really cool to me. I also think like how sick is it to be like smart enough or creative enough to just like there's so many movies that come out. Like we've seen 90 of them this year, right?
Yeah.
Like people have to think of that shit.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
But like at the same time, like they're able to pair up with writers, right? So like all they really have to come up with is like the broader concept, and then they kind of work through the details with the writers. Okay. So they have a team. Like I'm just saying, it's not just one person.
It's still fucking impressive if it's a team of 5 writers and the person who created the premise put together like Dune or Dune's a bad example because it's based on a book, but like a million different, like, you know, your Scorsese's and your Nolans who are doing a bunch of original content and like not only are they envisioning and making this story and then the dialogue is being built off of that, but they're also envisioning how it looks and how you as the viewer are going to see stuff. And like we talked about when check it out, we did a review of Heretic and we talked about the camera work.
Yeah.
Like that's from the mind of the cinematographer and the director. Again, it's a team, but like it's having that vision and then bringing it to light. Like, I don't know, that stuff's like super interesting to me.
I think it's tougher to grasp when you don't already have somewhat of a creative mindset. Like I don't really have that. So like, it definitely sounds crazy, but like the idea of like a bunch of people just sitting in a room and bouncing ideas off of each other until it becomes something sounds a lot more probable. You know what I mean?
No, but then to turn an idea into a 2-hour.
I'm not saying it's easy.
With like, okay, so like first it's like we have an idea and then there's a board that they write on and it's like start here, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and we need to get to the end. And now let's go even more into like the next step into this story. And now we need to fill the dialogue that gets us from chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3. And now we have the dialogue. We need to figure out how visually to bring this to life. Like there's just...
This is why movies aren't made in a week.
No, I get it. It's just like, it's very impressive to me. Yeah. And a guy like Nolan, who I've professed I'm not like a huge Nolan guy, still impresses me so much to do the work that he's done. And so much of it has come from his brain is crazy to me. Yeah. Spielberg, whoever, you know, Tarantino, a million guys. Speaking of really big creators, though, Ridley Scott has Gladiator 2 coming out this month. Super excited for that. So
it comes out on the same day as Wicked.
Oh, crazy.
So that's like another like Barbenheimer. Wickediator. Gladiator.
Try it again.
I got nothing.
Gladiated. That sounds like it's like 5 hours at the movies, and that's just like 2 movies that I think are going to be too long for me to want to see them back to back.
Yeah.
Same issue I ran into with Oppenheimer.
Fair.
And I just like I'm still very on the fence about Wicked.
Yeah.
Ariana Grande looks great. I just want to throw that out there. I might have a 6th Woman of the Year.
She missing some of the criteria though.
I don't know. Daisy Edgar Jones doesn't have some of the criteria I feel like you're mentioning.
No, she definitely does.
Oh, you don't think we're gonna see her? Got it. Never mind. On the same page. Okay, so this is from Culture Crave, who sourced this from somewhere they didn't reference. Historian calls Gladiator 2 total Hollywood bullshit.
Oh.
For having sharks in a flooded Colosseum scene. I don't think the Romans knew what a shark was. Ridley Scott was then asked about the sharks, and he said, dude, if you can build a Colosseum, you can flood it with fucking water. Are you joking? And to get a couple of sharks in a net from the sea, of course they could.
Okay.
I like that he clapped back.
Was that a direct quote? Did he really just start with dude?
Yeah. Yeah. Direct quote. Dude, if you can build the Colosseum, you can flood it with fucking water. Are you joking?
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I like that. Like, I've been making movies for 40 fucking years, dude.
You're not going to make
my
me
dick,
back down
dude.
on my shit.
Yeah, this is my fucking movie. Watch it.
This is my vision. You don't like it, go make your own.
I really like that. I don't know if that's correct. Like, did the Romans not know what a shark was? I imagine, like, Okay, we did history on the Colosseum, and I just don't remember any of it.
There weren't sharks involved.
No, I know that. Obviously, like the flooded Colosseum thing, I know is like not real. It's super cool visually seeing that as like in the movie, like the trailer he's talking about. I think looks fucking sick. So cool with me. But I'm just trying. What year was this? Like it was pre-death, right? It was BC for some of it.
Was it? Yeah,
wasn't
actually,
it?
I think so. Yeah.
When did Columbus sail the ocean blue, or when did the
in 1492?
Oh shit! So I'm just trying to think who was on. Like the Romans were using ships, no?
I mean, I imagine, yeah.
Like they were boating.
Oh, but hold on, like this was before the age of exploration, though.
Yeah.
So maybe they weren't boating.
Maybe he's right. He's a historian, right? Like we're not, so he's probably right. I would have liked if Ridley Scott was just like, dude, suck my fucking dick. Like that was his response. It basically was his response.
He just gave it a little bit more elaborate, yeah.
But I almost like I like leading it with dude. Like I think that's a real way to like diminish this man's intelligence. Like, oh, you're a noted historian. I'm a fucking great director, dude.
Not taking you seriously,
dude. I'm 70 and I'm calling you dude.
Yeah, great.
And I like that it's just like, yeah, you think it's not real. You don't think that like they were so smart they could build a Colosseum, but they couldn't figure out how to put fucking water into it, buddy. And you think that they couldn't figure out how to get a couple nets and catch a shark, you stupid fuck.
Oh man, that's
great. It's a great response. Just flat out fantastic response. This might be my last one. Yeah, it is. Ryan Reynolds says he wants to see more comedies recognized by the Oscars. One of the greatest, most greatest injustices is that Eddie Murphy doesn't have an Oscar for The Nutty Professor.
Of all the examples he could have gave, like I love The Nutty Professor, don't get me wrong, but like
I think he's talking about the
fact that he played so many roles in that.
Yeah, he had such like a scale of like you're nominating him for Best Actor, not because he like if it was Best Actor in a comedic performance, like not because he's playing one singular role. It's like he was so dynamic that he was able to play so many different characters and play them to a point where people love it. Like
fair.
And you know what's funny? I don't know that I think like the Nutty Professor's aged well. In the sense that like I don't think that people have seen the Nutty Professor who are under the age of 25 or 30.
You might be closer with the under 30 cap, yeah. No, that's fair.
Actually. You know, like I think that we were at the perfect age when that was coming out. And Eddie Murphy was still peak popularity, and you know, we were just in the age of like that type of movie really appealing to us. And then all these other people wanted to see it because of Eddie Murphy. Right. But then Eddie Murphy for the better part of like after 2000 wasn't doing a lot of big movies, you know, wasn't nearly in the limelight that he was when those movies were coming out. So I just don't think that like people are like parents are putting on the Nutty Professor for their kids either. Like, I don't even know if the humor,
I don't think that's a kid's movie though. Like,
no, but like, you know, but like we saw it when we were, you know, like we weren't adults when we saw that. The movie came out in what, 98 or something?
It was a less sheltered, less sensitive time.
I'd have to rewatch it to see if I think that it was, I don't remember it pushing any like crazy boundaries.
Yeah, probably not.
Like I would argue there's probably fucking Pixar movies that have more sexual references in them.
I can't challenge you on that. You're probably right.
But the reason I thought it was an interesting quote was because of the Nutty Professor being his example. But like, I do agree. And we talked about this with the Emmys, I think it was, with the controversy with the bear, how it keeps getting lumped into like comedy. Yeah. As far as what it's voted in for. And it does seem like there's just part of the reason why maybe you don't have it getting as much praise in the Oscars and stuff is because like it would be real. Like there's a couple movies that you saw recently with like Ted Mosby in it, right? And like these movies that claim to be comedy, but you get out of them and you're like, it was more depressing. It wasn't like.
Yeah, but I think that's also like, I feel like with any genre, there's like subgenres, right? Like, you know, like there's multiple different classes of horror. Not every horror gives the same feel. And so it's the same type of thing with comedy, right? It's like,
but I think comedy is the most subjective.
there's different levels of comedy, right? Like there's dry humor, dark humor, family humor, I guess you could call it, or like, there's just so many different types of humor that like sometimes I could sit there and be like, yo, this is just straight up not funny. But somebody else could think it's the funniest thing in the world. There's just different flavors to it.
But I think that's why it ends up being tough for them to have like as much praise for comedy performances, like than than some other stuff. Because I think about what was the Emma Stone movie that came out last year? Yeah, Poor Things. That's a comedy, no? I
never watched it,
but I'm pretty sure it's a comedy. Like it might have other genres attached to it, but I'm pretty sure comedy is one of them.
Probably dramedy.
Yeah. But like that's not nominated. Like that got nominated for Best Picture, as a comedy, not in a comedy realm. And maybe it's interesting. Here's one. Do you think why didn't Comedy Central ever just do like the same way MTV?
Oh, like their own like comedy award show.
Yeah, like it's like the same way MTV did the MTV Movie Awards. Why didn't they do an hour long like award special for comedy?
Oh.
Like you could have done like best stand up release of the year, like best streaming stand up, best like best comedic performance, like best comedy. Like you could have done an hour or 2 hour award show. I feel like maybe
especially in like the age where like it seemed like most networks had some form of an award show. You have like MTV,
and even modern day today, right? There is so much more readily available stand up comedy on streaming now. Like Netflix is a hub for so much streaming to where like there are far more people, I think, watching stand-up comedians perform on TV now than they were 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because it's way more accessible.
I don't know if I would necessarily say there's more people watching it as much as I would say there's more variety to watch.
So I think they're kind of in the same boat. To get more variety, you have to have more to watch. Because I just remember when we were young, like I remember growing up, like watching Original Kings of Comedy was playing on like HBO, or like Martin Lawrence, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, Dane Cook. Like there was like a list of like 5 to 10 people that you saw on like a larger scale, like on your TV at home, performing comedy,
like doing a special.
It wasn't like now where I can go on Netflix and I could scroll for an hour on different comedy specials from people I've never heard of that are on Netflix releasing stuff, not even to mention go on YouTube, and so many of these like independent comedians or whatever that haven't signed the Netflix deal releasing their own 10 or 15 minute sets, or like even some like podcasters that I follow have released like a 30 or an hour long special independently on YouTube. I think Shane Gillis released one of his specials directly to YouTube. Like
really? Okay.
I think that stuff just is so much more available that like instead of having, I guess getting back to my point, there's way more people to flood into that type of a thing now, even like to have a comedy award show. And I think that they could even just do that as a standalone thing if they really wanted to get more representation for like people being celebrated for being great comedians. Like I think that could be a way to do it.
Okay.
So Dante, can I ask you a question really quickly just before we get into the taste test?
What you got?
This is a big one.
I don't know if I have the answer.
Let me ask them a question first. Have you guys liked, comment, shared, and subscribed to the podcast yet? If not, make sure to do so. Thank you so much. So Dante, back to my question to you.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
No, I said, are you ready
to rumble?
No, that was a Triple H thing. To suck it.
Whoa. No. No. Who's Lil Diddy now?
Well, I mean, after you do that, you know what you might have?
I don't want to. No.
Do you have it, Dante?
God damn it. Taste.
Okay, so I have a couple movies that I can run through. Did you see anything else in the theater?
No, I did not.
Okay. You want to go with one of yours first, just because I have to pull my list up because I don't remember if I'm missing anything.
So on Netflix, I watched a couple things. One of them was a movie, Don't Move.
I haven't watched it yet. Was it good?
I didn't like it.
Okay. I kept watching the trailer and I couldn't tell if I thought it was interesting or not.
It looked interesting from the trailer because it seemed like it was going to be like more psychological, but it was kind of mostly a letdown. I mean, I guess just think about the premise. Like, how much can you really do with a serial killer and his paralyzed victim, right? Like,
it relies a lot on like it needs to be more psychological, and it relies on a really strong performance from both people, like facial acting and stuff. Yeah. Like the person who can't move, like, and
I just don't feel like you get a ton of that, and that's why I'm saying it kind of fell short for me.
Have you ever watched like this Ryan Reynolds movie Buried? That's pretty good. Like these movies that are like so that movie He's Buried Alive, and you basically spend the whole movie with him just inside of the box.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Okay. Like, have you seen any movies like that?
Not that I can think of right now. No.
It's always very impressive when you can make something like even remember the movie like with Colin Farrell, Phone Booth?
Yeah.
Like even that, like just doing an entire movie within like
I do miss those kinds of movies.
Like within just this one little tiny like plot confinement. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the movie itself, not a win?
No. I mean, like again, if it doesn't really fall under the recommend, don't recommend. It's on Netflix. You have Netflix. Like, if you're even mildly curious about it, sure, check it out. Form your own opinion. But for me, it just didn't really make sense, right? Like, the whole premise is there's this, I guess, serial killer. I can't remember if he's a serial killer or if he just, he was a serial killer. And she's on a ledge, like, about to unalive herself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he shows up there, talks her off the ledge, only to then bring her into his car to inject her with a paralyzing agent. And it's like, what's the point? Like, stop her from doing it so you could do it? Like, it just seems...
Well, because he wants... He's a fucked up dude. He wants to kill people.
Right. But, like, it made it seem like that's how he gets all his victims. But they never really reference his other victims. You just kind of assume that's his MO.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that could be interesting. I just don't think they did enough with the way they played through it to really get me there.
How long is it?
Probably like an hour and a half. It's not like anything crazy long now.
Do you feel like they left you edging?
No, I wasn't edging.
Well, you said like they had a movie, but it couldn't get you there. So I was just wondering. What you mean by that?
It barely even aroused me, bro. Like, I can't call that edging. You know what I mean? Okay. It was like you tried to tease, but you didn't have nothing to tease with.
There was no little feather rubbing up and down your side.
The other annoying thing, right, is like it's called Don't Move, and the whole point is she's supposed to be paralyzed, but she can always like kind of move when it's super convenient for the movie, and that got annoying too.
Well, like they do show that like in any movie that deals with like paralyzing agents, where it's like their hand like gets a little bit of motion back first, which seems weird because I feel like the extremities furthest from your heart would be the things that get it last, right?
Yeah, but like, sure, like she had like mild motion of her hand, but it's just like, okay, but this thing has you so paralyzed you can't even talk, but you can move your hand enough to like pull at things and like stuff like that. Like, it just seems ridiculous.
Yeah. They just ask you to suspend your disbelief for a long time.
Yeah. Like, oh, she's paralyzed, but she manages to like unbuckle her seatbelt. Like, how? You know what I mean? So it's just like,
was her hand really floppy when she did that?
She was almost like more tense.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I hate you. But yeah, no, it didn't really do it for me.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. Guess I won't be watching that movie.
I'd still want you to check it out because you tend to like the movies I don't like.
Fair.
I'd like to hear your take.
We're a yin and a yang.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay. I saw 3 movies in the movie theater that we haven't talked about yet. So like I said, we did a review for the movie Heretic, which we did see, or Heretic. Yeah. And then we just talked about Elevation. So I have 3 other ones. Last week I went and saw Absolution, Liam Neeson movie.
I intentionally skipped that one because he's been letting me down.
Yeah, I mean, this is dry. Like it's very dry, and like it calls itself an action movie, but it really only has like one true scene of like action in it. He's good in the movie, but he's just a little too old, I think, and he knows this. I've read where he said he's not going to really do action movies anymore, and this kind of fits more like he's like a mob heavy or like a.
They just keep trying to find the next Taken.
Yeah, it's not really no because it's not Taken at all. Like, to be honest, it really isn't. It's
like he's not playing that character.
No. So he's like a past his prime, like heavy in the mob, where he was a boxer who then got in with like the thugs, and it takes place in Boston, and or like the North Shore area of Boston.
You know what's funny? Boston people love Boston shit. I had no intention of watching this movie until you said that, and now I'm like, huh. I might see some familiar places.
It's just like it's just nothing really stood out more so than it was like this is very much like the Winthrop area of Boston where it's like, you know, the water's right there. Like,
well, Winthrop's not Boston, but yeah.
But no, it's like right out, like the outskirts. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, to where like you're 5 minutes from the city. Like it is basically Boston. You know, again, if you're 5 minutes outside of the city, you still carry the accent and everything. It's just like, to me, it's still, it may not have been. It may have been adjacent to Winthrop, but it was one of those edge of the city, just on the water.
Yeah, it's not Boston. It's Boston adjacent.
Sure. If you need to, like, this is the other problem with people in Boston. Is like, you want to be fucking super specific about shit like that. That doesn't really fucking matter. But yeah, so he was a boxer, became like a heavy for the underground in Boston, and he has.
Keep saying a heavy. Is that like muscle? Like,
yeah. Like he was like the henchman, like kind of, yeah. If you needed to, he goes around and collects the money and like shit like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he because of head damage and like concussions and stuff, he's got CTE. So he's starting to not remember stuff, like really easy things. He goes to the doctor and they're basically like, within the next 2 years, you probably won't be alive any longer. And he, through his life being an alcoholic and stuff, he has neglected his children. Like, he wasn't around for them. He went to jail. Like, he treated his kids like shit. He hears this news. He reaches out to his daughter. He finds out his son is dead, who he's been dead for years and he didn't even know, from an overdose. But his daughter has kids, and he grows a relationship with with his grandson, which is probably one of the better aspects to the movie itself. And all the while, his boss, like the head dude, has his son who's trying to get into the business, and Liam Neeson's character is the one who's kind of going around with him and trying to teach him some of the ropes and keep him safe, and like, you know, just show him, because he wants to get involved with the business even though the dad doesn't want him to. And they end up going to a job where they pick up people in this like box truck in New York and drive it back to Boston. And he finds out that they're like trafficking girls, and there's one specific girl who tries to escape that grabs his wrist. And he's teaching the kid like on a lot of this stuff, like, because the kid wanted to go see what was in the back of the truck and all this stuff. He's like, you never want to know what's in the back of the truck. You're better off to just put your head down, get it over with, move on to the next thing. You don't want to know. But the girl ends up trying to escape, and she runs up to the car and like grabs him by the wrist, and ends up like cutting his wrist because she grabs it so hard. But it, like, I think once he saw what he's doing, and he's now at this point in his life where he's like facing death, like, and you're contemplating who you were as a person, and it leads to him like fixing stuff, trying to fix things with his daughter, be involved with his grandkids' life when he's never even met them up until this point. And like, he sees this girl and he wants to save her, and like, that's why the movie's called Absolution, right? It's like finding like salvation before death, like, making something out of, you've done so much negative in your life, what can you do to reclaim some semblance of like good,
like absolving for your sins?
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, he it's a really well acted movie. Like, there is like one action scene that I think is pretty good in the film, but it's 2 hours long. It feels 2 hours long, and it was whatever. It was pretty middle of the road, I would say, for me. Like, I didn't hate it or anything, but I did put it at 76.
Oh,
at 2 stars.
Okay.
So not a recommend. You don't have to go out of your way to see it. I would even pile it in most of the Liam Neeson stuff that we've gotten in the past like 5 or 6 years, where probably not something I'm going to tell you when it's on streaming that you, unless you're a huge fan of his, like to watch. Okay.
Sounds about right.
Next up, I did a double feature one day in Framingham, and I saw a movie called Lost in the Mountain of Maine. And this movie, it takes place during the Great Depression. It's about a family. The dad comes home from like, he goes away for work. He's supposed to be coming back for a fishing trip with his kids. Tells him, I can't go on a fishing trip. But what I'll do is I'll take you hiking up a mountain for like the top of this mountain for the next 2 days. Because he wants to get back to work because the newspapers are talking about like the depression coming and like income being an issue. So he wants to keep working. And like the kids are obviously kids, so they don't understand why their dad keeps leaving. And they like one of them specifically, there's 2 twin boys that are like teenagers. And one of the twins is angry at him, like angry at the world because his dad's never around. And he talks about in the movie, there's a part where he's talking about like, my favorite thing was my dad used to read us stories every night before we went to bed. And he's like, and then one day it just stopped. And he's like, it's the saddest part of my life because I really loved those stories.
Damn.
You know? So they go on this hiking trip to Maine. There's 3 brothers, the dad, and there's a guide. And they're hiking up the mountain. The weather gets bad. It's getting cold. It's rainy. And the youngest brother, who's like in it, like 10 or something, is like, I'm cold. I want to go home. And the dad's like, yeah, the weather's getting too bad. Let's turn it around. And the boy, the defiant boy, is just like, no, we're seeing this through. Like, I'm finishing it. Blah, blah, blah. So he's like, you know what? Fine. Like, he'll take the young kid. He says to the guide, like, if they want to go, like, let them be men and go.
No shit.
Because the kid's like, treat me like, a man or whatever. Treat me like an adult, whatever. Shit the teen boys do when they're angry at their dads. And they go up to the top. They get to the top of the mountain, and they get into a little scuffle, the 2 brothers. And it leads to the kid, the angry brother, just taking off running down the mountain. But it's really shitty weather. And he gets turned around and he ends up getting lost as they run down the mountain. So he gets separated off from the group, and basically for the next 9 days, and this is a true story. Like this is a.
I was going to ask you that. I thought I read it was based on a true story.
Yeah, it's a true story. And the coolest thing they do in this movie is there's interviews from what looks like the 80s or 90s, maybe even before that, of the people the real people. And they it's not like one of those things where they wait till the end of the movie to show you this.
It's like in real time with what's happening in the movie.
You're watching things reenacted in the movie, and then like a person who is in the search party will come up and tell you what they were thinking about. Like, yeah, at this point we were looking mostly around the top of the mountain because realistically, with the way the weather was, we figured he would have fallen and hurt himself towards the top of the mountain somewhere, or maybe even be dead. Like, they're looking in like crevasses and stuff, trying to find a body essentially. And like, so the first couple days, it's a smaller search crew trying to find him. Then they pull out like the phone book, and they just call up like every newspaper around the country and end up getting a ton more people to come and look for him. The kid, the first day, like he sleeps through the night. He falls into like a swamp area with a bunch of thorns, and he loses his pants. So he's basically just in a white tee, a jacket, and shorts. And at night, the weather gets down to freezing temperatures.
Fuck.
And he's got then one of the other cool excerpts that they have is somebody talking about like, yeah, like back then for hiking, a lot of people liked wearing sneakers. And he's like, I never wore sneakers up there. I always wore boots because sneakers would tear apart at the seams very quickly on the terrain. And on top of that, there's a lot of old rotted wood that if you stepped on it the wrong way, you could go through it and it could cut through your foot or cut through your leg and like stuff like that. And right after that, they go to a scene like where like 2 days in, he pulls his shoes off and the soles are just completely like off and his foot's bloody. And he just from there on is barefoot for the rest of the time as well. So basically in total, he is in the woods for 9 days and he travels 60 miles, they said. with that, like from the peak of that mountain to where he gets found. And the mother has a thing where she talked about it both in like her real person, and the actor said this too to her husband, that the first thought I had when I got the call that my son was missing was that I hope it was Don, and not because she wanted him gone, but because she knew that he was the son that would live through something like that, because he was too stubborn to give up. Yeah, and that he would be the one who would keep fighting and he would find his way home, and she knew that.
Damn.
But yeah, he ends up going 90. Like they were like, dude, like full grown adults couldn't have done what he did with the determination. Like he managed to. He used his shirt. He tried fishing with like a spear, couldn't do it. Tried with his bare hands, couldn't do it. He ends up using his shirt and makes it into like a net and catches a fish. Finds like a spot where somebody had stayed previously in like a little cave, but there was no matches left. So he's trying to get a fire started with like a flint starter. Couldn't do it. So he ends up just having to eat the fish raw, like just biting into the fish and eating it raw. Yeah, gross. Stung by bees. Like he had a scene where he's like, he finds a river and he's like having the time of his life, like that couple days in where he's like, I'm on my own in the woods, and like has this moment where he's just having fun in like the water, and then he looks and he has leeches like up and down his body that he has to like pull off of himself. Yeah, and he gets like very close to death. And his dad had always told him, when they went camping, like if you ever get caught in the woods, I forget what the first rule was, but the second rule was like, you find a body of a river or a stream and you follow that because it's always going to bring you to a larger body of water somewhere. And you're more likely to find people, things like that. And the third thing was just always keep moving forward, like keep pushing. Like even when you think you can't go any further, like keep pushing. And he ends up following a body of water and finally gets like, after 9 days, just like sees somebody cleaning their clothes in like outside of their house in the river or like the lake outside of their house. And he like falls into the water and is barely able to like call out to them, but they come and get him. And then they show like the real scene of them getting reunited with the parents and like all of this shit. It's not like I got a tear in my eye at the end. I thought it was like, just like, the dad who like obviously feels really responsible because he wasn't easy on them either. Like his whole thing was like, we're going into this depression and life's not easy. And it's my job to make sure that they're ready for people to challenge them and for life to challenge them. So he was hard on them. But like, you see the wall come down on him when his son's finally back and all of this stuff. So
damn.
Yeah. I said not like an incredible movie, but I thought it was pretty powerful in some ways. I just put it at 2.5 stars. Like I'm not gonna tell anybody to run out, and like it's kind of dry for some of it. Like it's not like for the true stories we got this year. Like I prefer like Arthur the King, stuff like that. Okay. I think are potentially better movies, but still good nonetheless. And so I was telling you this earlier, like I try to do the back-to-back thing. So sometimes you just end up seeing shit that you don't think you'd ever want to see. And I did this.
The religious movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went and saw this movie called The Carpenter.
I've been avoiding that one.
Have you read what it's about?
I just remember the screenshot in the AMC app being like in a church.
It's not. There's not actually a church really in the whole movie.
Then am I thinking the wrong movie?
I mean, like it's definitely a religious movie.
Yeah.
I wrote for my synopsis of this film, if the movie Never Back Down was worse and about Jesus.
Oh my God.
So the idea is it takes place in Jerusalem and Nazareth and like surrounding areas to that.
I'm confusing this with Conclave. That's what I was looking at.
Yeah, no, that one looks like it could be good, but it's really long. And not super interesting. But so basically, this person's outside of Nazareth. He's a fighter. They do pit fights. And for the guys out there that are like early UFC fans, the funniest thing that this movie does is it starts with a fight sequence, like him at a fighting pit with people placing bets on him and everything. And it just goes into a music drop of Let the Bodies Hit the Floor.
That's where you got the never back down.
But yes, like this like MMA fight with let the bodies hit the floor, but with the background of it's a movie about Jesus Christ. The song by Drowning Pool, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, is in a movie that is predominantly about the rise of like Jesus Christ.
Interesting.
It's a hilarious premise. I was laughing at this part because I was just like, this is so absurd that this is happening right now. Like that it's just so perfect. But so he's at a fight. He's supposed to be back at home. It's him and his brother are at a fight. And he's supposed to be back at home with his parents. And his dad decides to go and work on the roof without him. And his dad falls off the roof and a piece of the roof falls on top of him and he ends up like dying. And he tells his kid to like find peace because here's the thing I hated. The idea was like that the son who is a fighter has like all this potential, but he's also got like an anger issue. But like they didn't like aside from him being a fighter, there was nothing established that would show you that he was a person who had anger issues, really. They just told you that. So they decide to move from the small village they're living in to go to Nazareth. And when he was at the fight pit, somebody told him in Nazareth, there's like the real fight pits. Like they make real money there and stuff like that. So he's like, of course, I'm going to go and sign up for this when I get to Nazareth.
When does this become a religious movie?
Getting there. So he gets to Nazareth. He gets into a fight. Well, he does a fight. And at the end of the fight, the guy's fighting dirty, like bites him and stuff. And it leads to his anger issue that they've just told you he has. They've shown nothing to actually establish it. He goes from being like very normal to like being bad and beats up a bunch of people that are there. So the next day, and a couple of them were like guards, like the Roman guards. So the next day, the Roman guards see him and they try to arrest him and he takes off running. And he ends up running to a small carpenter shop. And a guy comes outside the carpenter shop and sees him as the Romans approach and he covers for him. And he's like, hey, on top of that, here's what'll cover whatever damages he did to get like to pay his debt.
And that guy was Jesus.
He's a carpenter.
Jesus was a carpenter.
I know, Dante. That's why it's named the way it is. So he takes in Oren, the main character, as a apprentice and teaches him carpentry. And they go around and they give food to the people of the village that don't have food. And like he does all of these great things. And even it goes as far as the second day he meets Oren has a black eye from his fight. And he just puts his hand over his eye and performs a miracle. Like the bruising and everything goes away.
Okay.
So he teaches Oren all this stuff about life. He introduces him to his soon-to-be wife. You meet the carpenter's mother. What do you think her name was?
Mary.
Yep.
Okay.
So the fighting's happening, yada, yada, yada. You get to the end and it's like, I need you to make... He finishes a table. He's like, now I need you to make another one. And he shows him a table and he's like, I want you to bring this one to Jerusalem the next time you're there. And it's the table from the Last Supper, yeah. And he's like, I'm going to be leaving. And he's like, when are you going to be leaving? He's like, what did I always tell you? I can't remember the quote, but it's like, I'm leaving now, basically. And he leaves and it's been like months or a year, hasn't seen him. And they show a scene of him at the Last Supper. And then a huge like earthquake or something happens, like natural disaster happens in Jerusalem at the village that he came from. And it's when he gets
crucified.
Yeah, and all that stuff. Now Oren takes all the stuff he's learned and he's helping build back up the village and yada, yada, yada. I don't know. Do you want to know more about this or?
I just want to know what you thought of it.
It's a terrible movie.
Okay.
It's just such a forced like two things to like combine. There's certain aspects of it though that were like kind of funny. The fighting was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like they did some interesting stuff as far as breaking down like the strategy. You know what it reminded me a little bit of though? Three Ninjas. Remember when the grandfather's teaching them like he has the dummy that lights up when you hit certain parts of the body, and he's teaching them like the points you get for like you hit him here and that does this, and like he's showing them all the different parts of the body to attack. Yeah. And like they kind of do something like that with this where it's like they meet a doctor who's healing him, but the doctor's like, if I was a fighter, like I would do this, this, and this. And because he knows the human anatomy so well, he's able to tell them where he should target, and he ends up being their corner man for their fights. And he's talking about like treat it like a tree, and like you start at the base, and like so kick to the legs and break down the legs, and then you want to go for the kidney or the liver, which are going to be here or here, and that's going to slow down, and like you hit the body to open up the head, because the more you beat up somebody's body, the more they want to protect it. And now they're susceptible to getting hit in the head. And like as a person who follows fighting like I do, like I appreciate that they did follow like real strategy that you would play. And then like the kicks and stuff look pretty decent, if I'm being honest. But I think I give it 1.5 stars.
Okay.
And it probably got 1.5 stars because I thought it was so funny. Yeah, 1.5 stars that lot the bodies hit the floor, found a way into this movie.
Interesting.
I have it at 88.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure the camera's been out of focus this whole time, by the way. Been staring at it. Do you want to fix it?
Yeah, I'll fix it.
The worst part about being fat is the belt buckle digging into the bottom of your stomach, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was the 3 movies I saw in the theaters. Did you have anything else? You said you watched 2 things on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I watched a miniseries. So the one thing we could agree on, when we watched The Substance, was that Margaret Qualley was really good, right?
Yeah.
So I watched her series on Netflix, Maid,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was really good. Like,
yeah, I've heard good things. I knew she was in it. I knew it's on Netflix. I've scrolled past it a few times, but
yeah, she's fucking amazing in that. Like, really good. For what it's worth, I think his name's Nick Robinson. He's really good in that too.
Is it for the same reason she's really good in The Substance? Or?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, just making sure.
She's a completely different character in this. Basically, the whole theme of this series is domestic violence. So, you know, it starts with like her and her boyfriend. They have a kid together, and her boyfriend's an alcoholic and he has anger issues. And so like he's throwing a tantrum, breaking shit, and like punches a wall next to her, and I think throws like a glass or something. And so like it's her like rushing out with her kid, trying to like get to safety. And basically he took away all her power. Like he didn't let her like have a job. He was like, no, you're gonna be like the stay-at-home mom and all this and that, and like trying to keep her powerless. So now it's like her trying to figure out how to gain independence, and that's pretty much the course of the whole series. I don't really want to give up everything because I do want you to watch it.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah.
It's really good.
I'll check it out because I tried getting into Lost and I just it hasn't hooked me.
I've also said like I love miniseries just because like you can get through them. Yeah.
And I've finished OBX, so now I've got to like, find something else. I've been watching like movies mostly now.
Yeah, no, this is a good one. I think it's 9 or 10 episodes, hour-long episodes. The last 3 episodes, very emotional. Pulled some tears out of me.
No, nice.
Yeah.
All 3? You cried for 3 hours?
I didn't cry for 3 hours straight, but I think there were moments in each of those 3 episodes where I was like, God damn. All right, fuck. You know, we're getting there.
When I teared up during
there was happy tears, there was sad tears.
When I teared up during the Boy in the Mountain in Maine or whatever, there was a family that was very annoying behind me, and like the rows behind me, and I had to keep doing the like I did like a back stretch, hit the eyes real quick.
Yeah. I've done that one plenty of times.
Yeah. Also, I didn't mention this in the Carpenter. There was a couple behind me when I got into the theater.
Yeah.
They were not there when the movie ended. I think they went there for a Jesus movie, and the second that they got a fighting pit
with the bodies with the floor.
I'm pretty sure I heard them get up and leave, but I didn't want to like turn around and like look at them.
Yeah.
But then when I got up and there was nobody in the theater with me, I was literally the only person who watched this movie. I was like, oh shit, okay. They were not happy with the representation of their religion in this movie.
Oh man. I also I have the thing where my eyes are always watery.
Mm.
So like there's sometimes where I'm in a movie and I'm like, all right, I get that this is a sad part, not necessarily something I would cry to, but now this is an awkward moment for me to go and wipe my eye.
Yeah, like I said, I've been watching a lot of movies. Nothing I'm gonna like talk heavily about. But have you ever seen the movie Underwater?
No.
It's on my Vudu. It's good. I like
Okay.
it. Kristen Stewart. It just like starts from the second like the movie starts, basically. Like they're at the bottom of the ocean, exploring down there or whatever, and like they've built like structures so they're able to like stay down into the ocean for months at a time. And like the very first 5 minutes of the movie, like the whole contraption starts caving in, like pressure breaks in water, and like it's just go from there. Pretty cool.
Okay.
It's good. Fun movie. I can't think of any other ones that I've watched, but I have been just kind of throwing shit on for the past week.
Yeah, I've thrown a few things on that I've really half paid attention to, so I can't really talk about.
Well, let us know what you guys have been watching at home. Have you gotten to the movies at all? Any miniseries you'd like us to check out? Have you seen The Maid? Keep an eye out. OBX Season 4 just wrapped up, came out this week. We're going to be coming back with an episode for that as well. I've watched it. Dante hasn't finished yet. Again, said it a million times. If you're not an OBX fan, check it out. It's probably better than you think it's going to be. If you're like people like our age that like are like skeptical because it seems like it's like a One Tree Hill or like something like that. It's not. It has like themes of that, but it's more akin to our like adventure Indiana Jones type movie or show. So definitely check that out. And keep an eye out for that episode coming. And otherwise, we will see you next week, right, Dante?
Yeah.
Just making sure you're coming back.
Bro, I'm here every week.
If you guys want to come back, though, make sure to hit that like button down below. Sell a friend, ask a friend. Subscribe to the pod.
Sell a friend?
I'm still in my my Absolution phase.
Sell a friend, ask a friend.
Yeah, traffic a friend. Yeah, and make sure to hit that notification bell after you do subscribe so you can get updates for all the latest content coming from them boys at FTWGT.
Hola.
Till next week, we bid you fale adieu.
Peace.
Bang, 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 bang.
Oh, that's a lot of gunshots.
Yeah.
Skeet.
For those with good taste.